call. Last 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 call.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Last Call with your host, Lourin Hubbard. And joining me, as always, in the co-host chair is Brent Hennrich. Brent, how's it going?
It's going. I'm trying to put this tweet out to tell the world that we are live right now, but
we're live.
and we got a week.
Yeah, I was going to say we got a pretty. It's going to be a very emotional show. Just off the top, I don't know
how emotional it's going to be. I think it's going to be passionate.
There you go.
I'm saying I think that emotions are going to be released in tonight's topic.
Yes, there you go. Passionate. That's a great way to put it. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, Twitch, thank you. If you haven't caught the show before, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps out the show and it allows us to bring you this great media empire that we are building with Dig on America. Media empire.
Yes.
It's just a bunch of lefty friends who get to talk to you about the policies and make fun of some of the things that we don't like that's happening in America. And, right off the top, before we get into tonight's guest and the topics that we're going to talk about, I would like to talk about something light and something fun. And that is, although the NFL is not really my shtick, I'm more of a college football guy. I say fight on, roll tide, and go Dogs for USC, Alabama, and Fresno State.
No, it's go Tigers for LSU. There is no roll tide.
No.
Sorry.
Just LSU. I know you went there, your alma mater. I get it. But Louisiana is not that Alabama is much better. So there you go. But I'd be remiss if I didn't. My brother Damien is a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. He went to his first Eagles game last week. We live in California. He's never been to Philadelphia before last week. I don't know why he's an Eagles fan, but he is, and I'm glad to say that his team pulled out the W and will be headed to the Super Bowl, this fourth Super Bowl for them. So good job, Eagles. I don't know if we know the score of what's going on in the Kansas City Cincinnati game, but either way, someone will win, and we will have a Super Bowl. And I'll be there for the food and the commercials. Although Riri's doing the halftime show, so I will also be there for halftime. It's almost like, was it Drumline? Like every drummer / every black kid in band's favorite movie, Drumline. Halftime is game time, and it will be that way for me in the Super Bowl because I really could care less, other than my brother being happy. Could care less who wins.
Well, yeah, I mean, you should care though. I mean, yeah, you want your brother to be happy. My dilemma today was the fact that my father-in-law is a diehard 49ers fan. I was college football. I never really was into pro sports. Born and raised in the Portland metro area, there was always some form of a rivalry with Seattle, and so
Oh,
I wasn't a Seahawks fan by any stretch. So I was like, okay, default to the 49ers when my wife and I were together. But then a good friend of mine is helping him, and who's at final stages of life, who is a diehard Eagles fan. He's like, I need everybody to root for the Eagles. We need Jack to need a reason to live 1 week more and 1 week. I'm like, okay, and I didn't realize they were in the same conference, and so I had to go Eagles all. And then this week I'm like, they're playing the Niners. They're playing the Niners. So, okay, can't have dad over for wings and watch the game, and I'm just gonna conveniently be busy with doing things with the kids today, so I can be like, I didn't see the game. Sorry.
yeah. Dang.
So we got Natalie here now.
We have our guest coming in, Natalie James from the great state of Arkansas, Arkansas, as they say. Natalie, welcome back to the show. Natalie, as a former candidate for statewide office in Arkansas, as a black woman living in a state like Arkansas, I don't know how to phrase that, but some of the topics that we're going to get into tonight, I appreciate your perspective on, because I'll save it to when we get to the topic. The first thing I want to talk about before we get into the heavier topic, and we'll kind of just slide downhill here, is the video of the attack on Paul Pelosi was also released this week, showing the footage of that. And I was just kind of blown away. I was like, wow. And the fact that someone can, in an affluent neighborhood like that, like my wife grew up in the mountains and she didn't lock her doors. Like her parents now, like, live in town and, still kind of don't lock their door. I'm like, we every door is locked. There's windows. There's a little, you like break a little broomstick in the window, so you can't even open the window.
Oh,
my house growing up was a vault. I know, but if we were going somewhere, you know how to pop it. But I grew up in a vault. We were locked down.
Yes.
The fact of someone being able to get in your house with a hammer and then attack you, is a wild concept to me. But then,
okay, but wait, whoa! I don't care how locked down your house was. If it had a wood or a fiberglass door, which is what 99% of Americans' front door is made out of, like, why are we calling this a breaking and entering? I don't see a break-in, and the Fox News host was like, it's on your screen right now. He's using the hammer to break in through the door. Like, it doesn't get more breaking and entering than literally breaking down the door.
The police come, still not leave, and still continue.
Yeah.
And right there.
My house got broken into when I was younger, and I remember the cop saying, because our back door was locked, all of our doors were locked, but our deadbolts weren't set. And my mom saying, like, oh my goodness, if only we had set the deadbolt. And the cop said the way he opened this door was he heel kicked the door handle and it broke out the frame. He's like, if you would have had the deadbolt set, it just would have done more damage. Like, there are some types of attacks where they come that the flashing light deterrent of a car alarm. If they're going in when they see the flashing light, They're either smashing and grabbing, or they already know how to defeat the alarm and they know how to be able to drive it away. So keep the honest people honest.
Well, that comes out, the realtor side's coming out in me. So we always inform everybody, change your locks, but always get 6-inch screws into the actual frame and the actual frame of the house. So if you do 6-inch screws instead of the normal little inch, inch and a half, inch and a fourth, those actually go into the actual frame of the house. So it makes it 10 times harder to kick the door in. I highly recommend that for everybody. We do that in our own home as a safety precaution. And of course, in Little Rock, we do have those security doors. I recommend those as well because those are virtually impenetrable.
Yeah, I'll just say,
yeah,
you get a screen door and you're good.
But in an affluent neighborhood, you don't want to do all that. It's gated, and you have HOAs you
Right.
have to accommodate with and things like that. But it's still horrible that you can't go to sleep and you have to worry about somebody who's unhinged that's going to walk in your house because they're upset with your political views and that your political views don't align, when everybody's political views should align, that we should be doing the best thing to keep us alive and keep us on this earth long as possible and keep this earth going as long as possible. It should be just that simple. But unfortunately, right now in this climate, it's not. Everybody wants to pit people against each other because it makes for better controversy, TV, and fundraising.
Right. That's very true. And especially when someone that is not in the public eye, right? Like,
Yeah.
had it been an attack on Nancy Pelosi, I mean, the optics of that is way worse. But just, this is her husband. He's not in office. He's not doing
Just a
any of
normal
that.
person. And you don't even know what his political views are.
Yeah.
They
Driving
keep
on
matching
true love.
yours,
Yeah.
and they attacked them. You don't know, just because people are married. I mean, look at Kellyanne Conway and her husband and her
True.
kids. Yeah.
Or the Raging Cajun, speaking of Louisiana. He's very Republican. But I think the most disturbing part about it is, like, in the wake of this video coming out, is like, was it David DePapi is the guy, the attacker in the video that attacked Paul Pelosi, said, "I'm sorry I didn't get more of them.
Yeah.
I should have come better prepared." That is disturbing to me. This is like after the fact, right?
That's not disturbing. That's the same rhetoric that they have and that they sit here and continue to push, and the same agenda since January 6th. They think that it's okay that their behavior is deemed by God and okayed by God because that's what good Christians do. They go out and kill their neighbors that don't agree with them. Yeah. And blame it on Christianity. Sounds kind of, like something else that we've heard before when it came to in the name of their God. People used to do that. And then it also sounds very, very, very close to fascism. It's like we're 7 steps into 10 steps away from fascism. We got 3 more steps before it gets even worse than what it already is. So it's only going to get worse from here, and both sides are going to have to start standing up, especially meeting with the aggressors to stand up against them the same way and let them know. I mean, throw the books at them. You know what? Pretend that the guy that attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, pretend that he's a black woman. Throw the book at him. Give them all the jail time because statistically speaking, by law, black women have the harshest sentence because they want to set an example. Well, now you got your opportunity to set an example. Let's see what the judge is going to do.
Right. There you go. There you go. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I would be remiss if I didn't bring that up. But with everything that's going on, the other thing, the kind of the major story, and why, Natalie, I'm glad you're here with us, is here we are again. There's no words that I have but heartbreaking. As we saw the Memphis Police release body cam footage on Friday night, 5 officers fatally beating Tyre Nichols, and people all over the countries. Yeah, people all over the country now have seen it at this point, and it comes as yet another black life is senselessly taken at the hands of law enforcement. And just getting into a little bit of the particulars before we start, talking about what it means. And I kind of want to focus the conversation in giving people like us as hosts the space to kind of just feel what we're feeling about the whole thing and our reaction to it, but then getting into the okay, what's next steps? What do we need to be doing? How can we hold our police and these public officials accountable So Nichols was 29. He died in the hospital 3 days later after being stopped by on a routine traffic stop on January 7th. And I don't believe there was an official cause of death, but I think family has hired a forensic pathologist that determined that Nichols was, quote, suffered extensive bleeding caused by a severe beating. Those 5 officers involved were terminated and have subsequently been charged with second-degree murder. I believe second-degree murder. I just, shout out to Chief Carolyn Davis, who's the police chief in Memphis, and this is kind of why I was glad to have you on. Is it took a police chief who's a black woman to set the example. I heard a lot of people saying about, if the officers were white, it would have been this. I have the feeling, and after hearing her comments, that this either way, that buck stops here. And so it's like yet another example of a black woman in here in this country cleaning house. And I just want to, so let me just start by giving you the space as our guest to kind of share what your reaction to everything has been. And then we'll go to Brent for his reaction on watching the video.
Well, my first initial reaction was, here we are yet again. Here we are yet again, and this is what actually got me into politics. This is what got me involved heavily into community activism, speaking up for the injustices, and yet they continue. We made signs, and those signs had hundreds of names just from people being murdered by the police, which should not be happening. But that's because we've gotten complacent over the years and forgotten what the original design of what the police are. People don't want to talk about it, but if you don't talk about your history, you can't know where your history was and where you're coming from and where you're going to go. So it's important, I think, that we have a whole complete history, because this is brought up. The original version of the police was to be slave patrol, that same exact star, and then it got switched over in numerous states, and they're still doing the same thing. I don't understand how the minority of the United States is still predominantly the ones being assaulted. Yes, the majority is also assaulted, but minorities are assaulted and murdered at a higher rate. Children, women, and men. It doesn't matter. Who was it? It was Tamir Rice. That's who I was trying to think of the other night. That brutally assaulted without question, judge, jury, executioner. And we continue to watch these atrocities, and we sit back and ask when and who's going to help us, who's going to help us. We have to stop asking who is going to help us and be the people that are going to help us. That's what catapulted me to actually run, because I got tired of looking for somebody to come save us, come save our children, come save our men, come save our boys, come save our nephews, come save our sons, and got up and decided to do it myself. And it's going to take federal legislation, and it's going to take it to the point where we're going to have to write bills that are going to remove their bonds, remove their insurance, so that they cannot work ever again on a federal level, so that everybody's covered and blanketed in the whole United States, to set an example. And it doesn't need to be, we're going to trickle into this. It has to be with sanctions, and it has to be a law put in place to protect people from unjust and injustices being handled by our police officers. And I get tired of hearing that there are good ones and they're good ones. Yes, there are good ones, but one bad one, we always remember that negative comment more than we remember the 1,000 good ones. And if you know that this person has an issue, might be bad, has a record, has a complaint record of these indiscretions, it's up to you to do something and speak up and say, hey, he's a liable risk to the community. And I don't feel safe for the people that I'm supposed to protect and serve with him out here, because I've seen his actions over aggressions are her actions, because women are doing it too. And that's not happening. So in my eyes, until everybody starts to speak up and starts to do what they're supposed to actually protect people, then you're all the same. I can turn a blind eye. I cannot pay attention. You're no better than that person who did it, because if I got in the car with somebody carrying what they were doing, the Scorpion unit was looking for somebody carrying a pound of weed, a pound of cocaine or weed or whatever, drugs, narcotics. If I was in that car that they pulled over, guess what? I might not have been mine. They're still going to charge me as an accessory. Well, guess what? You're an accessory by accompaniment as well. And the same needs to happen until this stops. Now, there were 5 officers that were charged, but there was a 6th officer there, and there were 2 other sheriffs there as well. Those sheriffs have yet to be let go, have yet to be charged, because they're just as guilty because they watched it. They watched them drag that man back to the car and sit his lifeless body up, knowing what they did was wrong. They allowed it to happen. The 6th one didn't intervene. There's a duty to intervene bill. So obviously that's not enough.
That's not enough. Yeah.
It's now going to take it to, we're going to have to take this to stronger and harder punishments in order for us to protect ourselves, because obviously the ones that are in the force don't want to do it because they're just so scared. And I still don't understand that if you're that scared for your life from an unarmed person, you do not need to be doing your job. There's
That's
no
what it
point
is,
in
yeah.
being in there.
I want to jump in here because this is a good segue point for it. That I agree with everything you just said. But the one thing that seems to continue to come back to me from my different perspective is they pull someone over, which they still haven't proven they had any reason to pull him over. They've said they did. They've said it was a, quote, normal traffic stop. But they haven't proven that. They've got all the other video of all the way more horrific stuff. But they haven't even shown there was a Fourth Amendment reason to be there in the first place. And I think that's going to end up being in a federal court, later after these state charges. Cops, and this was told to me by a regional law enforcement trainer that was running for sheriff here. Just for note, my best friend's father was a Clark County sheriff and was killed in the line of duty, was killed by his off-duty partner that came to Super Cop Save the Day and shot Martin Souders, Tim's dad. And so, I know a bit about this. I discussed these issues with him. But one of the biggest issues came in the 80s when there was a training program put in, or another company created another training program and said, you have the right to go home every night. You as an officer, you have a right. And they don't. They don't have a right to go home every night. You don't get to say, I put my life in harm's way every day and say that I get to remove all harm. That's
so
not
we.
Yeah, we have a right to go home.
You said
you have a right to protect us. But this segues into the gun violence issue we have, the proliferation of guns that cops now, every time they walk up to the car, because there's so many goddamn guns in this country, they think that everything could be a gun. And now we're making them small enough. No, I'm just saying.
Depending on the color, they have this little card that they hold up, and if
I'm aware. Just
they can have a gun all they want to, but if their color looks like me or like my shirt, I am not allowed to have that right.
I know, but I'm saying that cops have this really, I want to get you out of the car, I want to get you frisked attitude, and they have that towards people that look like myself as well. I'm not saying that I'm just saying that we have a gun problem, and the culture of the cops has been, yes, there is racism in the training, that yes, you and Lourin get treated differently than I did, but they treat everyone as somebody that's out to kill them, because that's what they've been trained to do. Now today, just this last week, a 6-year-old boy took a gun to school, shot the teacher. The administration was warned, and they searched the backpack and said, well, it can't. She said, well, they said it was in his pocket. He said he's 6 years old. Yeah, his pockets are too little because it was a little ass gun. And so when these things go around, cops pull you over for speeding. They think you're going to shoot them, and they escalate it so that they can say they have a reason to haul you out of the car because they scared and they don't. It's
Now
like,
you're
no,
getting to it. It's the culture of policeism. It's the
yes,
police culture, and somehow they fell in
Mhm.
line and thought that because they had a blue uniform that they were protected from doing anything. They knew that they had body cams on. They didn't care. That's why
yep,
they're like, "Oh, move your arms, give us your arms, give us your hands," even though the cam is showing them, well, not their cams, with the street cams and somebody else recording them is showing where they're actually holding this man's hands behind his back as they assault him and beat him and brutalize and torture him. And I'm going to say torture because they're thugs. They did this maliciously with malicious intent. This is first degree murder. This was planned and premeditated from the after they hit the second strike and realized, oh, and broke the baton and kept going on this man. This
I
was
know.
first degree murder. They planned to kill him so that they could get off and say, oh, well, we're the Scorpion Task Force. We're doing our job, looking for drugs. We're pulling over
It's
anybody. We're
hard
doing
work.
Terry stops and infringing upon everybody's rights. But we have to start talking about the actual police culture, which is why I brought up about what it was to begin with. It was slave patrol. Well, that slave patrol has been switched over to drug patrol for slave patrol as well. So they're still targeting the same people that they were originally targeting, but under another guise. Oh, you had a broken tail light, but we want to search your vehicle because you might have marijuana. Well, marijuana is legal in most states. Well, now you have cocaine because it's an influx. Oh, it's fentanyl. So they come up with these special task force and they don't de-escalate because they're not in there. They're riled up because half of them are rolling off of whatever they're rolling off of, but as quiet as it was, not even quiet. That's a known fact. They're only amped up
Let's
because
go. Let's go to it.
of legal
I'm
and
just
illegal
saying.
things. They're amped up off steroids. They're amped up off of whatever Mountain Dew that they've been sipping on and whatever little 8 balls that they've been rolling to that they like to take it and plant in other people's cars to cover their own tails to justify what they did in their actions. We need to talk about the whole culture. We need to talk about the mafia type mentality that's being perpetuated and being pushed throughout all of policing and through it. And when they have somebody that is coming in a different type, coming in with the 21st century mindset to take that out, they push them out. When you have good
Absolutely.
cops, they push them out. And what we have to do is we have to push back harder and say, no, no more thugs. If we can't have thugs on the street and we can't have gang members on the street, we're sure as heck not going to have them all in blue and black. Then we can't have that anymore. And we have to do that as a people. And so you hear a lot of people saying defund the police. I do not believe in defund the police. I believe in reallocation. And with reallocation also comes education. And it also comes with punitive charges, meaning if they know they're going to get a slap on the wrist and they can go to the next county over and get another job, they're good. So they're like, I'll keep on getting all these complaints. I'll get all these charges. What are they going to do to me? Fire me? Cool. I'll go somewhere else in the state.
Yeah,
I'll go to the next state over. But what
true.
we have to start doing is making a record of it. Everybody works off of KPIs. Everybody works off of where what you have to actually do. Like if you're late, you get docked and you have it on your little calendar for the year or whatever, and you have the opportunity to win it back. Well, every time you have a complaint, the same thing needs to happen with them, but it needs to remove their insurance and it needs to remove an eighth, a quarter, half, and that means that they are responsible for paying the insurance, not us, the people,
Haven't
because
and some
we don't talk
incentive.
about it
Yeah.
enough. We're paying them to beat, brutalize, and pay for these settlements. Our pocketbooks are paying to settle out them to kill us in the streets, and we're paying them to kill us in the streets. No. So they need to be responsible for their own insurance. They need to be responsible for their own bonds because they have a security bond, a surety bond as well. So we need to start going after and suing these surety bonds. We need to start suing their insurance so they are no longer able to be able to work as a police officer. They need to be flipping burgers, or they need to be doing something, taking out garbage, or something else with guns.
Mhm.
But anyway, I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like
Majority.
exactly the case of Lourin Armstrong in
Mm-hmm.
Oakland. Someone
Mm-hmm.
who's actually in here doing the work, trying to change the culture. There. I think it's like one of those things that you don't really understand, like how systemic it is, not only
Mm-hmm.
through the department, but in like elected officials that have
Yes.
DAs and everything else, that have a vested interest in continuing this cycle.
Making charges and funneling money throughout the courts and funneling money throughout the cities, because a lot of these cities are funded off of these stops, off of these arrests and everything else. Then down to Atlanta, where they're building Cop City. What is Cop City
Oh yeah.
for? people like us who say enough is enough because they realize that they're going to have a problem and people are going to get up and they're going to rise up and they're going to protest. So they have Cop City going on, and what they did with Cop City down there, because there's a park in Atlanta that people are like, hey, leave it alone. It's been here for hundreds of years. You do not need to, you have plenty other places that you can sit here and industrialize, capitalize off of. Leave it alone. So it was a guy that's known for sitting and doing environmental protection work, sitting in the trees, and they came and they murdered this man. They assassinated him with body cams. Didn't care, impunity, because they knew that nobody was going to stop them. Nobody's going to check them. Nobody's going to do anything to them. We have an issue with police culture in the United States that we have to address immediately, quick, fast, and hurry. And we always say, well, it doesn't affect us. Well, it affects a marginalized group. We've seen what the agenda is. And the agenda from the top is, if it's going to affect, if we can sit here and annihilate the minority, we can then take over the majority. If we see that women, which are 51% of the United States, have our majority of our rights removed, what do you think is going to happen next now that the rest fall in line? Everybody's going to be packed together and all rights are going to be removed. And they're going to have a militarized police force to be able to do that. I don't believe that there should be tanks and things like that are being brought out in most of our cities and things of that nature. We should not have a militarized police. So that's what we should do with reallocating funds, putting into different provisions to teach them how to de-escalate, because police officers should be put on the ground, 6 months? I don't even think they get 6 months worth of training. I think your anesthetician and your hairdresser gets more training.
Yeah, I think our police academy is 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months. And I think I know our hairdressers get more training. They're in school for 18 months. They have 18 months of training before they can touch your hair and your hair grows back. People don't grow back. People don't come back to life.
You talked about the militarization of police. That is like a massive issue. And it seems so simple for the federal government to just stop giving the police this military equipment. I've seen all the people on Twitter. Oh, they should have to sell all their military equipment. Who the fuck are they supposed to sell it to? The military gave it to them. They didn't want it. They're like, here, you can fucking have it, because it's a federal jobs program to just build the shit. And then they're like, oh, we don't have enough parking lots. Give it to these guys, boys with toys. I mean, it's totally boys with toys. Oh my God, there's 10 people down there. Go get the big truck. Let's load up and stand on the outside as we roll in.
You said 10 people. They do it for 4. Remember,
but it's just like, it's the whole point of, like, you give a boy a toy, he wants to play with it. He wants to see what it can do. And the other problem that I have with the militarized police force is people are like, oh, you want to take away the gun from me as a law-abiding citizen, but give it to an 18-year-old that's going to go to war? Yeah, he's in the military. He spends all of his time training when he's not on the battlefield. He's not doing anything but training all day, every day.
When he is on base, and where's everybody's weapon on his military?
I know, they're all put away.
They're all locked up.
I'm just saying that the militarized police get these toys and they don't get any training. They don't get any, they're not getting any monitoring daily. It's like, here you go. We're putting it in the garage. When you need it, you can use it and being released. But you get a group of 20, 18-year-old boys that are given an Abrams tank that have different levels above them, that they are getting training every single day, and they are taking it apart and putting it back together and maintaining it, and they have structure and discipline. And when the time comes, they know how to use it. They've been trained on the proper use of it, and that's what they spent years doing before ever actually using it. And we go 4 months, here you go. Yeah, you know all the state laws. You know them all now. You know all the federal statutes.
Know all the laws. That's what really gets me.
I know.
Lawyers in school for 4 years learning statutes, laws, acts, and provisions, and everything else. And these cops are like, "Well, I know the law. I'm enforcing law." How can you enforce something that you don't even know that changes on a daily basis?
Well, it's like calling a standard family attorney, and you're like, okay, well, this or that. And they're like, yeah, I don't practice that. I can do your will. I can do your prenup. I can do your, I can talk to creditors if you have a problem. I can whatever. But if you're doing a patent, you need a patent attorney. Oh, you actually got charged with a crime. You need a criminal defense attorney. And then
environmental attorney.
Attorney. And these people do their 4 years of college, their 2 years of law school, plus years, decades of continuing education.
Unless it's 4 years.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, but sorry, I'm just saying. But they go to all this continuous whatever, and they come
continuing legal education.
Yeah, they come out of law school not being able to really practice because there's no such thing as general law. They're immediately getting hired as a junior to go under somebody's wing to learn more. And so, but this is our problem. We're giving police that enforce the laws, police that are supposed to be a reactionary item. We're supposed to call the police. They're supposed to react and come to us and help us. And now they're just running around saying, you fit the description. Well, you know what? You're wearing that uniform. You fit the description of somebody that kills people. You fit the description of somebody that restricts other people's rights because you're worried about going home tonight. And you fit the description.
I mean, I don't understand that whole rationale. Well, we want to just make it home. Where do you think he was trying to make it? He was trying to make it home. He was 80 yards from his mother's house. We're trying to make it home to our families and to our kids too. And to worry about a traffic stop that could end our lives. A traffic stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? Oh, remember
it's really.
It was another one at Wendy's parking lot too, like that. That was what, a year ago, 2 years ago, where he was asleep in the car and it bothered him. How are you that scared of a sleeping person? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I laugh about it because that's all I can really do. Because Friday, I'm gonna tell you, Friday was I got home and I went to a press conference where I just heard the most performative, and I guess I have a vested interest in it, so I won't talk about it. But it was a performative speech that they purposely got a couple of the black pastors, people that had black churches in town, and did a press conference to say like, "Oh, peacefully protest. We know this is bad, and but police are good, and we respect your right to protest, but don't burn anything down." That's really what it came down to.
Oh, and then what were we talking about last night, Brent? We were talking about how it's too soon for them to say, to bring up, what was it? Not all cops, and we just want to go home. I was like, how can you start pushing that type of rhetoric? No. It's too soon. Too soon. You haven't even. I mean,
everything in this country is too soon if we want it to be better. Oh, there was a mass shooting today. It's too soon to talk about gun control. Oh, a cop killed somebody. It's too soon to talk about reforming the police. Oh, this happened. Oh, it's too soon. Can't we wait till they're buried? No, because it's going to happen again before this person gets buried. Sorry. You're politicizing it. You're goddamn right I am, because that's the only way we're going to get it fixed is through politics that's going to create policy. Like, and they know it's that.
Yeah. And I just like it's always calmed down to me, right? It's always, you should be calm. You need to calm down. You need to calm down. And yet, like, I got hit twice with it on Friday. The first time of like thinking about like my mom, because the day before they released that clip they're doing for the Colin Kaepernick and Midas Touch put out about Killing County, about the police who are the deadliest police in America in the town that I grew up in. So like wait,
that's in Killing, or is that in Colorado?
That is in Bakersfield. Kern County is Bakersfield, California. Kevin McCarthy's district.
Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah. So like we had the talk that very, very early on that you can't be doing this and that, and you say this, and I do it today. Anytime I'm stopped by the police, I take the keys out of the ignition, I put them on the roof, put my hands on the steering wheel, I have it down, and I just like think like how the nights that I would like. I didn't tell my mom where I was until like later on,
Mm-hmm.
until like 11 o'clock when we like settled down or whatever, and like from where she knew I was to where I actually was like a 2-3 hour span, and what she must have thought and gone through. I was like, damn,
Yeah, you'll be
I
that
felt
kid that I would
remorse
lock
for
in the
that.
house.
I felt remorse for that, but then I was putting my kids away, and I was just I like my like oldest asked me like, Daddy, what's wrong? When I was putting them away, I was like, I've had a really bad day. I just need you to go to bed. We're not staying up all night and doing this and that. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
go to bed. Go to bed. But Daddy, what's going on? And I was like, I broke down in there. I was just like, I just want them to come home. That's what I want my kids to come home. That's
Mm-hmm. And you want to
that's
come
it.
home
And
to your kids. That's your
how
right.
we have the lack of empathy on one end, but the always pushing
Demanded on another.
demanded on the other end
Like
is
they're not
what's
even asking, they're demanding. We must go home
frustrated
to our
me.
children. I'm like, we have families too.
No, yeah. So I want
We're
to
human.
put this next phrase in this kind of from this perspective of like I think of like where I live now in Fresno. After 2020 and what spurred like all the movements of George Floyd, and we actually like got a commission together through the city and made a list of 73 reforms that we wanted to
Mm,
see from this police reform commission.
mhm.
They've implemented 9 in the 3 years afterwards, right? Um, and
Sounds
then this
very
something like
much
this
like ours.
happens. So like, what do they expect now when if this like I mean, God forbid it happens here? What do they expect? We went your route. We gathered community input. We held meetings for months, and these were the recommendations. And now it's 3 years later, and you haven't implemented the recommendations. What do you expect people to do next?
And we had a task force like that too. And now we have a new governor who's not moderate.
Oh,
So
jeez.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. What do we do next? I mean, we protest, we protest loudly, we protest silently. We go sit down with our legislators, we go sit with our governors, we go sit with our congressmen, we go sit with all of them, and they're like, "Yes, we hear you." Every election cycle, we promise we're gonna work so hard
Yeah.
on that. And then every time after they're in there, well, you know what? We need to infringe on more people's rights. We're going to start removing, you know what? You can't do drag shows here. This is what's important. You don't need CRT.
All
This is
right.
what's important. I'm like, wait. We kind of want to go home too. No. The only people that are important enough to go home are the people that wear uniforms that are black and blue. We're worried about them going home. You're not important. You just keep paying your taxes so we can make sure the people in black and blue can go home. Wait a minute. And you're right. It makes us question and sit back and say, what do we do? How much more of this can we take before it? I mean, we're already in a spillover. How are we going to fix this issue? Because we're in a crisis. We're dying at an alarming rate. The unarmed civilian people that they're supposed to protect, we are dying in a very alarming rate. We're dying in the streets, we're dying in the hospitals, we're dying all over the country, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. And then part of it is, I'm going to have to say, the ugly monster in the room, our own damn faults. You want to know why? Because in other countries, they pay attention to what happens and to who they elect. They pay attention to what's going on in their parliamentary. Their children know. You go to Sweden, you go to France, you go overseas, go to Dutch, you even go to Africa. They know exactly what's going on in their parliamentary or any type of legislator. They can tell you who, what, when, where, who's the PM and everything else. You go to Canada, the same thing. Even in Mexico, same thing. They pay attention to who's in government and who they're putting in place. And if the people in place aren't protecting them and doing what they're supposed to, they get them out. We don't do that. We keep putting the same
Well,
ones back in there. The same
we
ones.
don't do a lot that it's like Brent and I went to a Black Leadership Conference. Brent was my plus one for the 2022 midterm recap leadership summit in Las Vegas back in December.
I know when I missed
And
it and I wanted to go.
it was a great event. Just like, I think it was a part of it was like a healing session in and of itself, but just the thought of like, like the money that we need to build black political power. But my thought in it was like, well, maybe we don't have this black donor class, but then you look and we have a lot of people that could be a donor class in this country. But unlike some other groups of folks, black people didn't create their wealth from the government or needing the government to create that wealth, right? It's athletes and entertainers. Jay-Z is a billionaire. No political giving. Oprah is a billionaire. She did some political giving. She did some, like, she gave to a nonprofit to like get out the vote, which she can write off, but she didn't. It wasn't like direct political contributions, right? Tyler Perry, who is a billionaire.
Oh,
I think he gave like 100,000 to Stacey Abrams, but like 100,000 when you're a billionaire, bro. Like,
what's that? Pocket change. Like, what about the rest of the black candidates out here that are doing?
So it's like, exactly. So it's like, it's almost like, if our like leaders and like the people who are supposed to be like,
so nice. Let's call them what they are. If are affluent, because they're not leaders. Leaders actually lead, they give, they do, and they set the example and the tone. And the tone is not being set. The only tone that's being set is, we're here to entertain, continue to give us your bucks, and we're not putting it back into the community. And the best way that they can put it back into the community is have community people represent the community. But that's not even being done.
I know, and I think of like, granted, I don't know what was going on in Atlanta, in Georgia in this last cycle, but Killer Mike is from Run the Jewels, is a guy that I think, puts his money where his mouth is a little bit when it comes to like being in the community and doing the work in the community. But I just, my part of my issue or like the reason I'm upset is I don't know what our next step is, because other than continuing to fight. But I was going to say, so at this leadership conference, we learned that 60% of black voters that didn't vote in the last election didn't do so because they didn't believe their vote mattered. And so it's reinforced by the like, hey, we did all this work in the community to get these 73 recommendations to reform our police, and it didn't happen. And we're still waiting on those reforms. And so I'm just kind of like, how, as people who are wanting to be leaders and be elected officials and make these tough decisions, how do we convince, or how, I guess, put it to you, how would you convince someone that their vote is worth it, and that, if we have to keep voting and doing this stuff, if we want to see change, even though they may have voted one or two times lately and haven't seen that change?
I'm gonna have to hop off of this. How do I convince people that their vote matters? I tell them about the seats that are won in Michigan, where one vote, a provisional ballot, he didn't have his ID, he came in, turned it in, and it put one of us in the seats. It took the seat away from somebody else who wanted to do the community harm. Ashley Hudson here in Arkansas, she won by 12 votes. Lisa Park, 7 votes. Earl, Arkansas, the youngest black mayor, in the United States, in the
18,
black,
right?
Yes, Jalen Smith, 100 votes, but he came out and he did the work. He had his high school students, his college, his church people, and everybody else come out and get out to vote. We have in Arkansas the youngest mayor in the whole United States. That's how your vote matters. And it's our young people that are going to have to show up. It's our millennials that are going to have to show up. It's our professionals that are going to have to show up. And on that note, I'm going to have to show out.
All right. We appreciate you coming on and talk with us, Natalie.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
I'm going to show you something, Lauren. So I got randomly selected for the joy of the extensive census survey the other day. How I know this is going to be controversial, but how we get them to vote is this. You are required by law to respond to this survey. It is a federal law. If I don't do this, there is punishment.
Yeah.
Because this, if I don't, and I had nothing to do with it, they just sent it, and I would show the main sheet, but it has my address, but it is addressed to the resident of, and lists my address. Yeah. It doesn't say to Brent Hennrich, to Amber Hennrich, it's like, but you will do this, or you will face consequences.
You know, I just, part of me is like, there is an element within our local police force that's trying to do some changes, but then there's the old guard and leadership.
Okay.
Like, we just had a spot, and I'm just like, how do we, as the community and community leaders, how do we support the good officers? You know, it's almost that old wives' tale. Yeah, one bad apple, right? But one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yeah, that's okay. So you talking about, you started with 71, then you said it was actually 73. I read an article today. He given 71 orders in 13 minutes. Of those orders, 40 of them he was already complying with or were 100% contradictory to anything he could do. He was being pinned down on his side, and somebody was ordering him to lay down. Well, he was already down, and then they were like, no, you need to be on your belly. He was pinned to his side by a cop, and another one's yelling, you need to whatever, and they're absolutely, you know, like, this is a problem in policing. This is a problem in government. We have a whole bunch of people shouting at this. It's killing people, but none of the other people that are doing it are listening to what's going on. You know, we're electing somebody. They give up on helping because they get sick and tired of just shouting about it and nobody paying attention. I really believe that is on the legislative end. Like, okay, or all the other legislators that aren't going to go along with it go, he's shouting again. Oh well, let him stand over there and shout. And it's money, and it's all these. Yeah, I mean the money. Everyone knows it's the fucking money, and it's where it's coming from. You know, Natalie's point, and absolutely is true. You know, the police need to pay their own, you know, settlements. The officers do. They, you know, you need insurance to drive a car. You need insurance to be a doctor. You need to make the cops go get their insurance. You know,
like over a 10-year period, we paid $20 million in wrongful death suits from people being killed by police.
Yeah.
Just in
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it. And that number, the payout was low, should have been higher, but it shouldn't, you know, they get the benefit of the doubt in court on behalf of the jurors that live there that are like, shit, I don't know that I want to give this whatever, because we got to pay that shit back. That's our money. You know, that's the jury sitting there going, this asshole did this, and then I got to pay for it. So I got to say he was wrong, but shit, you know, like it's just, it's a compounding tragedy. And the biggest problem we have is everyone says it's too big to do something about. Like, that's always kind of the cop-out. Like, well, where do we start? I don't fucking care. Put a stick in the spokes of the wheel so it comes to a crashing halt, and go forward. And I made a bad tweet the other day and said, I've never said defund the police. We need more funding. No, I should have said, we need more funding for the tasks that police are currently tasked with, but we need other people to perform those tasks so police can do the tasks they're supposed to do.
Right.
But it's Twitter. You have 280 characters. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take out and put an ampersand, and I'm going to put a connector there, and I'm going to so you miss things, and then you get flamed. Yeah. But we need cops to be able to be cops. We absolutely need policing in this country, but we need them to step up and say, hey, we've screwed up. Did you see the video of Shannon Sharp apologizing after that situation at the Laker game?
The Laker game? No.
Well, he did a 3-minute and 20-second direct to camera apologizing to different people by name, to the overall sports audience, to the overall audience of his show that tunes in, to his children, but he was like, I did that. And that was we need government to do that. And we don't need it to be in the form of, oh, we're going to get a settlement in court, and that's how they say sorry. I can't remember what movie it was. Well, no, I was going to say, I think it was A Civil Action is the name of the movie with John Travolta. I may be wrong, but it was like when corporations get sued and they actually pay their settlements, that's them saying sorry. That's not saying sorry. You need to stand up and say, I'm sorry. And if they would stand up and say, we screwed up policing in this country for the last 300 years, we've whatever, and would say, we need to fix it and we want to fix it. If the police departments would actually say it and show it in a manner that they actually wanted to fix it, everyone would be on board with helping them fix it.
Yeah.
They don't want to fix it, though.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Making them fix it is the issue. But part of it, and to your credit, and what you're saying, I totally agree. I think we ask the police to do too much in this country, and they're asking them to solve social problems that they aren't equipped to solve, right? And to me, it's thinking of different ways to think of the issues that are facing society. And over policing is not really the thing, right? Crime happens. Crime is a consequence of lack of resources. And so
for 99%, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that serial killers and whatnot, and that's what cops are there for, is to say, oh, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again, that this person that did this is stopped from doing this again. But the other part, the root part of the everyday crime is exactly that. It's it's crimes of opportunity and it's crimes of necessity.
Yeah. So in thinking of things in terms of that, if we don't say defund the police, but we're talking about we're reallocating sources, I would totally love to have the police have social and mental health workers be a part of their squad. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that respond to things. And I don't think that should be as ridiculous to say that we want to make social investments and use some of the police budgets that we do. I'm sorry, 40% of the budget of the city and where I live goes to policing.
So they've claimed budget cuts, they've claimed all these things, but so many areas now have a single cop and a single cruiser going out and doing things. So there's not a redundant set of eyes. And I think that's a problem. I think there should be 2 for in each cruiser versus what we have now. And I would like it to be a mental health professional as that second one. And I would like it, and this is where I'm going to get flamed, I would like that mental health professional to be required to give permission to the officer that's carrying his gun to take their gun out of their holster. Like, no more, I just had a split second. Like, no, that second set of eyes has to say, you can draw, and the cop has to go, there's a reason to draw, and give that pause. And I don't know how you would lock it so that it couldn't or what, but that type of scenario where you need a cleared permission, because pulling out a gun is an escalation of a situation. And then pointing the gun is, having your hand on your gun is escalating. Then pointing it is the next escalation. Then, it's, we need to not escalate it. We need to de-escalate it. We need better for that. But I think that
that was one of the most painful parts of the video.
Well, yes, it was fire to them, and they were all amping each other up.
And the only person de-escalating the situation was the motherfucker getting beat.
Yeah. Because he knew where it ended. He knew that if this didn't de-escalate, he was dead. And unfortunately, he is dead. But he knew while he was on the ground that if this thing didn't get calmed, the only one that was going to leave hurt was him.
Yeah. I think that's my big issue is like, other people, I just, I don't think it's wild or a bad take to say that like when I see a police car around me, I want to feel safe because it's never been the case for me. I don't see like a police car come behind me and go, "Oh, I feel extra safe now." I don't feel.
I know it's not the same, but I am the same as you on that. I don't having them around is not anything that in just general every day. I like the idea of being able to call them and have them arrive if I need. But even there, it's kind of
what gets me in the kind of the irony of this, and like I like this is why I see a whole bunch of like overlap, and why I think that there should be room on the right in conservative movement to build some like a relationship to say like, yeah, this should be reformed. Is that the people that are always going on about the tyranny of the government and coming in and disrupting the lives of citizens. Oh, how my cat wants to say hi. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Yeah, cat on the show. Hey, Penny. There's always wants to come in and disrupt the lives of citizens or harm citizens and take things away. Is the government, but like there's never a realization that to regular citizens, the most interaction they're going to have with a government official is probably going to be the police. And so like if you want to get rid of the tyranny of the government, you should be saying like, hey, we need to reform the police. We need to get people doing this work because it's given way too many opportunities for bad people to get involved with it. And I want my government to be free from tyranny and oppression. Where are they? Where are they?
They're fascists. And they want freedom for me, but not for thee. And they still view that they're going to be free, and they really don't care if you are based on looks. I mean, it's racism. It's all of that. that they're
Like even now, it was like watching the video and watching some of the comments. It's like you could tell the ultra right wing people, because they would be like, he should have complied. He should have complied. And I was like, what? Are you watching the same thing?
But he should have complied with what? So that's it's like, what should George Floyd have complied with? What should there's been so many names, and there
right, and I hate to play the whataboutism game, but that's what it comes down to. It's like, okay, Ashley Babbitt, she should have complied.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We can play the game too. The point is, let's look at what's going on, but that's never. It's always the person who ends up dying's fault, not the responsibility of the people who are there to protect and serve. And I think that is the most egregious thing of all, is the protect and serve part of it. And I went to, it's really funny, Wednesday night, we had a to stop the hate town hall in town that I went to, and we talked about how do we stop the hate in our community. This is right after we've had shootings, and there's been other situations in our Asian community that have happened. And I am just, are we just violent people? Like, what is the cause of this? The stuff that's going on. It just seems like we're getting into escalation after escalate. There's been 40 mass shootings in the new year, or something.
Is that what it is?
Like that.
Oh yeah, it was. That was the number. The number the other day was 39 in 23 days. I remember seeing that headline.
So,
and we're at 29 days, so I guarantee you we're well past 40 at that rate.
Yeah, so that's happened. The attack on Paul Pelosi happened the same day that they released this video, the same day, and I'm just like, wow, is this really the America that we're like? I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Is that really the place that I want them to grow up in, and to see this on the news every night?
Okay, so I have conflicting thoughts on this, because I think it's the America you and I grew up in. It just didn't get reported on because that was a no-no for the media. There wasn't peer-to-peer social media to report on this stuff. Like, what happened to George Floyd, when it happened in 1986, it might have made the local news, but there would have been no video of it. There would have been one eyewitness saying, hey, well, yeah, I saw the cop, whatever. And they would have had a PR response team out there saying, hey, he was resisting. And they would have had the benefit of the doubt to have people say, oh, well, the officer has a right to arrest the bad guys.
Rodney King.
And
I'll tell you what, that episode of a different world is what ended that show. By the way, they had an episode about the.
I remember Different World. It was the spin. I do not remember that episode, but now I'm gonna get on YouTube and watch it.
It was canceled after that episode. Go back and watch it. Dwayne Wayne is stuck in LA during that time. Okay. Wild.
I will have to do that.
That's exactly the thing. But it's like, we've been telling you this for so long that hey, we're getting beat up by the police. We're getting beat up by the police. Getting beat up by the police. And are there some people? It's like, I get it. Are there some people that are saying they're getting beat up by the police and they didn't? Sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
But there's enough, and there's been enough evidence to say that it is a widespread issue. Yeah. So I will just say this. I have talked to the person who was the vice chair of that committee about the 73 recommendations that they made to our city police. I will get to the bottom of why that is stalled, and I will work to make those recommendations a reality. You heard it here today on Last Call, because I want to come home too. And
I want
so,
you to come
Brent,
home.
I don't know if you have any last words, but that's my last word. Is I want to come home too.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We hope to see you guys back here next week, where we will have hopefully another wonderful guest and some more wonderful topics to discuss. I want to thank you for sticking around for the show. If you like the show, go ahead and click the like button. If you really like the show and you want to help us out, go ahead and click subscribe. It helps us out, and we'll see you next week.